Hello, my name is David C. Taylor. I am a third-year doctoral student in the Global Prize Program at Texas Tech University in the College of Education in Curriculum and Instruction. I've done a research study titled Impact of Leveraging Student Interest in STEM Fields, a case study, as well as I will be discussing the advocacy work I have been doing along the lines of student STEM interest as well as student STEM persistence. This study was completed in the fall and beginning of the 2016-2015 timeline. The background of the problem is related around the need for the increasing field of STEM careers growing in the U.S. It's predicted that by 2018 that it will be up 17%. This was reported by the U.S. Department of Commerce in 2011. 9 million job increased projected through 2022 by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. STEM careers have a 4.5 lower employment rate. And it's important that we gain an understanding of students' interests and aptitudes and influences with regards to STEM education, STEM careers. Extracurricular STEM courses are an opportunity to increase knowledge, practice, and understanding with regards to these possible career paths for students. Also knowing that given the fact that the courses are an extra activity, it can support the understanding of why the students are choosing this pathway and what prior learning experiences are impacting these students' motivation. Gaining understanding of why these students are choosing extracurriculars, it's important to the impact of their prior learning. Now, this study set out to identify students' influences and reasonings for pursuing STEM extracurricular learning experiences, as well as identifying motivations and reasonings and influences. This data collected could provide insight into learning about specific factors that are increasing motivation and interest in STEM from prior experience. It could support change with programming, curriculum, learning opportunities, and even educator instruction. Now, the guiding research question for this study was, what are the factors that influence students' interests in participating in an extracurricular STEM-based opportunity, and to what extent can they be identified? Now, the theoretical framework and literature that guided this research is broken up into 4 areas. Constructivism and STEM education. Constructivist learning goes very well with teaching of engineering and STEM as a whole because it provides a model for instruction and allows students to be actively involved in their own learning, foster development, engagement, and interest in STEM. Students that are engaged in becoming STEM workers are able to process science, technology, engineering, or math to try to understand how the world works and to solve problems. Constructivist approach provides students a way to be actively involved in their own learning, which can lead to an increase in self-efficacy, knowledge, and learning. Using constructivist learning theory with design thinking helps increase students' motivation, performance, and retention in engineering content as well as integrate learning concepts. Impact of STEM learning on STEM careers. Educational content curricula play an important role in raising and maintaining young people's interest in science and technology. Making students aware and informed of different STEM careers increase their interest and aptitude towards STEM fields. Extra experience in STEM-based activities can increase aptitude and interest in STEM as a whole. STEM education is a constructive and use social interaction which creates the motivation that is key to cognitive development of STEM knowledge and skills. Informal learning and motivation. Informal learning provides students the opportunity to develop new skills and social development that promote strong feelings of belonging and satisfaction. Formal learning, such an extracurricular engineering program, can create a dynamic process for shaping an individual with regards to their knowledge and productivity in learning. By students having intrinsic motivation for engineering and STEM as a whole, students are finding enjoyment, interest, and satisfaction in these areas and topics. Individuals can be intrinsically motivated when they are engaged in activities for their inherent satisfaction, extrinsically motivated when they are engaged in activities for instrumental reasons, or amotivated when they prove no regulation toward an activity. And STEM pathway factors. Parents, teachers, and curriculum can influence students' decisions to pursue a STEM pathway. Positive and supporting learning communities impact the overall attitude and interest related to STEM motivation. Quality peer interactions, communication, support, and STEM learning environments promote positive academic understanding and learning. But there's also negative sides of factors that are impacting STEM pathways for students. Lack of teacher training, understanding of the content by the educator, and general rapport with students, coupled with the pedagogical practice, can impact students' decisions to pursue STEM. Peer support, early STEM access at elementary and middle school, and involvement in STEM-related activities is highly important for STEM persistence for students of color. It's also, teachers need to be aware of their gender and social stereotypes because they can negatively impact students, for example, female students pursuing STEM. Now, in conclusion, for our theoretical frame or literature for this research, starts with learning theory and engineering design help engage students in engineering. Making students aware and informed of different STEM careers increases their interest and attitude towards STEM fields. Developing student motivation is important to supporting their STEM persistence. Curriculum, instruction, and learning experiences play a large role in student interest in STEM. Younger and younger students are making their choice to pursue careers in STEM fields. With this knowledge in mind, it's important to support and understand the factors that are impacting their choices. Now, the presentations of the methods for this study was a qualitative paradigm. It was specifically a case study due to specifically choosing a extracurricular activity where there were 11 high school students, 10 boys and 1 girls, in a course called Make It. These students had the opportunity to learn how to use cutting-edge technology to, in the end, design their own personal projects. The student background: 1 student attends an independent private school, 1 student attends a public charter school, and 4 students attend public high schools, and 5 students are associated with homeschooling, either directly homeschooled or in a homeschool co-op. IRB number for this project was 505535 and was approved. More about the course.
Students were able to use a variety of cutting-edge technology during the Make It course. This high school extracurricular engineering enrichment course had students with prior engineering enrichment course activities through the same organization that hosted the Make It course. The students were using new prototyping equipment that allowed them to not just learn how to use the hardware and software related to the laser cutter, 3D printer, Arduino microcontrollers, but to be able to design their own custom projects. These custom projects were researched by the students, as well as the students developed a budget that coincided with their projects and developed a parts inventory that was provided to the instructor, and the instructor bought the materials for each student. The students used a mixture of prior knowledge with their newly learned skills that evolved around the laser cutters, the 3D printers, and Arduinos to create these independent projects. Each class met for a total of 4 hours for 6-hour classes on 4 Saturdays in the fall of 2015. This course was based on the Fab Academy diploma course, How to Make Almost Anything.
Now, the collection methods were triangulated through interviews that were one-on-one, face-to-face, in-person interviews. There were 3 surveys that collected a variety of just background information as well as opinions and thoughts and attitudes on STEM and interests about the course as well. The data was analyzed using in vivo 11.1 for coding and creating categories and themes. Trustworthiness was created through credibility, transferability, dependability, and confirmability. Now, the categories that emerged. First was STEM-based career interests. 3 subcategories came up on non-STEM interest, high school future interest, and college future interests. Out of the 11 students, the majority, except for 2 of the students, all wanted to attend a 2-year to 4-year college for a STEM career. Majority were engineering. Out of the non-STEM interests, these students found engineering and STEM as a whole as a good skill set to have, as well as would rather continue as a hobby. But all of the students wanted to continue pursuing not just extracurricular engineering aspects in courses and activities, but formal coursework, such as Project Lead the Way classes in high school. All the students had a plethora of prior experiences in STEM. The majority of the students, except for 2, at least had one parent that had a STEM career. And this ranged from doctors to engineers to programmers to mechanics, etc. A lot of the students had formal school classes such as Project Lead the Way. All the students were involved in some type of extracurricular activities in the past, such as some type of robotics organization such as FLL, as well as Science Olympiad. Others have taken formal classes on programming, and all the students in their independent time were involved in some type of activity that involved them developing their skill sets in STEM. These were all very influential and significant factors. Their interest and aptitude, their internal influence was the most important. All of the students had a personal drive that wanted them to continue learning more and had a lot of interests compared to the external aspects. Now, the category of inspiration. The highest areas of inspiration were, as I carried over from the last point, was their self-inspiration. The students found a lot of internal motivation. They saw the importance of these skills and knowledge and the career opportunities. All the students discussed a parent or a relative that was influential and supportive to pushing them and providing opportunities for them to grow and learn in STEM ed. And then a lot of the students had very specific activities that they found joy in. A majority of the students spoke about computer science. The lowest on these went classes, and then a teacher or a mentor were the least referenced. With regards to the coding, the students defined themselves as either hardware or software people. With the fact that the course did a majority of building with 3D printers and laser cutters, etc., from a hardware standpoint, there was also the microcontroller with Arduino, where there's a whole C library coding process with that. 7 out of the 11 students referred to themselves as coders, where the other remaining 4 students refer to themselves as hardware people in those skill sets. Now, the last quarter was a Make It course experience. The students developed skills that they referenced. They all said they had a positive experience, and it would help them in the future and inspire them to work on other projects because it gave them better understanding. They referenced the instructor having positive feedback, as well as they offered insightful improvements, such as clear directions and for the budgeting aspects. But they all remarked highly about the course design and the individual projects. They really enjoyed that aspect of it, having the openness to develop and create on their own after learning specific skill sets. To break this down, 9 out of 11 students want to pursue a STEM career. All the students had multiple STEM prior experiences. Students had a large amount of self-driven motivation and inspiration. 5 out of 11 students had parents in a STEM field. All the students discussed their parents or relatives' regards of supporting them. All the students expressed doing STEM activities on their own. Majority of the students associated with computer programming. 9 out of 11 students' individual projects were software and program based. The students enjoyed individual engineering design projects, and the course design was constructive and PBL based design. Now, extracurricular motivational factors. Large amount of prior experience was found in the outcomes of this study. High internal influence and self-motivation, influential supportive parents and relatives. These were the key arching factors. Now, with regards to trying to measure these factors, high frequency of the factors can help identify a student that would participate in STEM extracurricular activity. By identifying these 3 major factors, you would probably find a student that would be highly interested in pursuing a STEM extracurricular activity. It would help create a profile, but more research is needed at this time. To directly respond to the questions, Part 1, the findings from the study showed that the students are choosing to participate in extra STEM-based opportunities due to 4 major factors: parent-relative, influencing, inspiration, strong student internal influence, and activity, enjoyment, and learning. Part 2, to what extent can maybe identify these factors: extra learning, parent-relative influence, independent learning, along with self-driven motivation can be identified through interviews, surveys, and observations. Looking for a frequency in these can help create a profile, as stated. Implications. Factors and measurement of this can be used to develop students' interest in STEM, support the growing STEM job opportunities, change in informal and formal settings, could lead to possible parent education courses on their role in impacting their child's STEM development, identifying students for STEM extracurricular programs using frequency of their factors, could be used to help create programs to support STEM development at a much younger age. Future research. Better understanding of the extent at which the factors can be measured that were derived out of this study. Completing the same study with more girls, since there was only 1 girl in the study. Research on the impact of computer programming on students' STEM interests. Access to a larger sample size, multiple STEM extracurricular activities instead of just doing 1, such as this Make It class, in different age groups, possibly middle school and elementary school students as well. Conclusion. Overall, the themes identified important factors for identifying inspiration for interest, aptitude, and motivation in STEM. These factors can be measured, but looking for a higher frequency in them. The research and study can support change in extracurricular learning activities, parent awareness as well. Now, moving on to the advocacy part of this, took place while on our trip to DC as part of our coursework. We had panel discussions with 2 organizations that were organized for us. This provided great insight into the climate of STEM education in the capital, as well as provided opportunities to research other literature aspects. We had the opportunity to hear from different speakers of different backgrounds, talking about education and STEM education. Part of our work, we had to schedule meetings. I partnered with 3 other colleagues, and we were able to schedule meetings in advance with Partnership for 21st Century Learning and Lewis and Burke and Associates, as well as I had a personal meeting on my own with NAIS. This is more about this.
Part of our coursework was to attend and participate in an advocacy trip to DC in the summer of 2016. During this trip, we had scheduled meetings with representatives from a variety of states. Specifically, one representative from Texas spoke with us, as well as from a variety of organizations such as ITEA, etc. We had panelists speak to us as well during our 2 to 3 day trip. While we were there on our second day of our trip, we scheduled meetings weeks in advance with Lewis and Burke Associates, P21, and these meetings were scheduled with 4 colleagues in the cohort with myself, as well as I scheduled an independent meeting with NAIS on the following day after these 2 meetings. The first meeting with Lewis and Burke was a wonderful opportunity where we learned a lot about navigating the advocacy arena in DC, learning basically when to use numbers, for example, when not to, which organizations and people or individuals you are speaking with and how to approach them. These different ways of navigating in this advocacy world learning these skill sets was very helpful. Later on that same day, we met with P21. When we met with P21, we met with David Ross, the Chief Strategy Officer, as well as Dr. Helen Soul. It was a wonderful give and take meeting where we were offering them information about our research and what we could do for them down the road, as well as how they could help us. So it was a wonderful opportunity that we had. It was a different meeting compared to the one with Lewis and Burke, where we met with Dr. Codwalder and Miss McCarran. As I stated earlier, that was more, we were learning from them. Where this meeting, we were sharing with P21 our research and how we can support them and support us as we can build with one another. The following day, I met with NAIS with regards to discussing the work I'm doing and how they can help me as an independent school teacher, since the school I'm currently at is an independent school. And it was a wonderful information session. They asked a lot about what work I was doing and how they could support what I'm doing. So that was a great meeting as well. The following images were with my colleagues on the day of meetings with Lewis and Burke and P21 as we took images outside of their offices.
From the work I've been doing, I've found some key aspects that are very important. Students' interests and prior experience in STEM are important. Gaining understanding of these can support a wide variety of stakeholders, ranging from parents to educators in formal and informal education, as well as policymakers. STEM persistence is being impacted by a variety of factors. It's not just one entity, it's prior experience, it's parents, it's teachers, it's what they've learned, and how it's been presented to them as well, for example. Extra STEM activities provide an outlet for students pursuing STEM. It gives them the opportunity to continue supporting that passion, that they're an interest that they have acquired and gained. And lastly, information can support global STEM education, not just here in my area, but across the country as well as in other countries, because these factors, by looking at them and seeing how they're impacting students all over the world, we can help support the global STEM pipeline. Here are my references for my work, and this will guide me into my dissertation proposal. Well, thank you.